so what you need to do, because you mentioned that when you read the problem, your brain just said, I don't know what to do. So you need to look at this box on the golden notes, right here. Okay, that box says that f prime, or dy dx, is a formula used to find those four things. And those four things are all the same thing, they're just different ways of saying the same thing.
Okay.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So, with that memorized, and when I say memorized, it's got to be like firmly memorized. It can't be the kind of thing where you're like, okay, what did it say? It's got to be like, no, I see dy dx, I see f prime, I know exactly what it means. So that way when you read the problem, you read, what is the slope of the line tangent to this curve? And your brain says, okay, got it. The curve is f. They want the slope of the line tangent to that curve. Well, based on those golden notes, that memory I have, if I had a formula for f prime, I would have a way of finding the slope at any point on that curve. Questions? So my goal now is to find the derivative of f. So I go back to my golden note memory. Again, you're not looking at this when you're taking the test, you're just remembering. And you remember that the formula for finding the derivative of the inverse tangent, arctangent and inverse tangent are the same thing, is right there. So, that means f prime equals 1 over 1 plus the something squared multiplied by d over dx of that something. Questions? So what does this become?
4.
Perfect. So now I have a formula f prime. So you remind me, what's the purpose of the formula f prime?
That's to find like the point on the graph, right? On the line.
Okay, so you got to get a lot better with the words, or it's going to cause a lot of errors.
Okay.
So if you look at the golden notes, you see this picture. And I'll reproduce that here. So that picture is this, where you have some sort of curve. And the curve is really just a whole bunch of points, x, y pairs. You have a line that is often tangent to that curve. And then we have 3 formulas associated with this situation. The 3 formulas are, we have a formula for the curve itself. So what would be the formula for this? You tell me.
Is that the y equals arctangent 4x?
And what's the purpose of that formula?
That's just the curve.
What does that mean that it's the curve?
That do they just give you like a curve so then you can find the slope of the line tangent to it?
Oh, that's one reason. Here's what I want you to memorize. You hear them talk about a curve, you need to be thinking, okay, this equation, 2 main things I'm going to do. Plug in an x, find the y. Or plug in the y and find the x. Those are the 2 main reasons for this equation's existence. Make sense? And you can do that anywhere on the curve.
Yeah.
Now we can also take that formula, apply derivative rules, and create a new formula. Right here. If you look at your golden notes again, this formula has 2 purposes as well. So remind me again, what are the 2 purposes of this formula over here?
That formula
no, we don't want to say that. This formula is where we plug in an x, and we find the y for a given point on the curve. Plug in another x, find a different y. Plug in another x, find a different y. That's that formula. This formula here in green, two purposes. Plug in some x and find the slope of the curve at that x. So we could go to some point on the curve and find the slope at that point on the curve. Like that.
Okay.
Or we can do the other way around. If we have a situation where we know the slope somewhere, we just don't know at what x that slope occurs, we can plug in a slope and find an x. So they're really simple slogans you need to memorize. This equation, plug in an x, find a y, plug in a y, find an x. This equation, plug in an x, find the slope on the curve, or plug in the slope, find the x where that slope occurs. Question?
So that formula in the green box, that finds the slope of any point on the graph?
So this being f prime, we don't want to say graph, it's too generic. It's like saying the word it,
Okay.
which is forbidden. Don't do that. So this word is also forbidden. I need another sign. So this equation f prime is to find every single point, every single slope on the curve f. You can put any x coordinate and it will find the slope at that x on the curve of f. Or you might happen to know that right here the slope is some value. You just don't know what that x coordinate is. That means you could plug that slope in here for the f prime symbol, and you could go determine the x that is causing that slope. So
Like I put the slope in for x?
no,
Or
x,
just
keep
f
talking.
prime total? Like
Yes.
I would just say the slope equals and then that equation.
There we go. It's all about remembering what the symbols represent. This symbol represents a slope.
Okay.
This represents an x coordinate.
Yeah.
So you can use either one. If you plug in the x coordinate that you know, the formula will tell you the slope at that x. Because the slope on the curve is different at every x. But if you know that there's a slope somewhere of 5, you put a 5 in place of this symbol, now the equation allows you to figure out what is the x coordinate where that slope occurs.
Makes sense.
Okay. So what are we supposed to do? Oh, and then there's a third equation, looking at your golden notes again. There's a completely different equation for this thing. This is the equation of the line, which means this finds all the points on the line. So that's plug in an x, find a y, plug in a y, find an x for the points that are on the line. Does that make sense?
So would you want to find the slope at 1/4 and then plug that in for y for the equation of the tangent line?
Over here.
Yeah. How
So like this, y of x equal 1/4. Is that what you meant?
yeah.
Okay, so there's nothing illegal about doing what I'm doing, but it is not what they're asking you to do. Like,
It doesn't help.
like what would this be, like, but it's crucial that you know what this is doing because it's going to show up in another problem. Like, what is that finding?
Is that just the equation that makes the curve?
So this is the equation that finds every xy pair on the
Oh,
curve.
yeah.
No worries, so what have we just found?
We just found the x
Careful.
for one.
We just found the y
You found the y.
because we plugged in the x. You understand?
Yeah.
So we plugged in the x, we found the y. Whatever that is, we found it. So we're not asked to find this y coordinate. But you might be in the future, so it's good that you know what that means, but that's not what it's asking.
So that means, so that's saying that at y equals, at 1/4,
At x, so again, make sure you're very specific. At x equal 1/4,
At x equals 1/4, it's equal to arctangent.
the y coordinate is the arctangent of 1. Okay? Which one place where the arctangent is equal to 1 is pi over 4. You don't have to know that, so that's okay. Don't worry about that. I don't think they'll test you on that one. So what that means is there's some point on this curve, and that point has an x coordinate. That point on the curve has an x coordinate of 1/4 and a y coordinate of pi over 4. So it is crucial you understand that that's what you just did. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Question? Okay, so what are we supposed to do, since that's not what we're supposed to do?
So you need to use the equation up there, the y equals m8x minus x1 plus y1.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. So tell me again the purpose of this equation.
That's to find any x or y point on the curve.
Perfect. So plug in an x, find a y, plug in a y, find an x. We don't have this equation, but if we did, what's the purpose of this equation?
That'll find the y. It'll
Where?
find on the tangent line.
Good. So that one, you plug in an x, you find the y, you plug in the y, you find the x on the tangent line. That finds points as well, finds x, y coordinates. Is that what we want to use?
So
What do we want to do?
we want to find the x at 1/4.
No, it says right there, we know that x is 1/4. Like, what is this problem asking us to find?
Oh, the slope. The slope of the line tangent when x is equal to 1/4.
Good, so how do we do that?
So we have to plug in x equals 1/4 for x1, and then
Up here?
yeah.
Keep talking.
And you have to find y1 too.
And then once you found out, what would you do?
Once I found the x1 and y1. Well, that's why I'm confused because I don't know how you find the first x.
Oh, so assume you could find that. Oh, like this x here, you mean?
Yeah.
So we don't have that equation, but if we did, it might look something like this. You don't ever find these. They stay as an x and a y because that's how the equation allows you to find any xy pair.
Okay.
Because you can plug in any x you want,
Yeah.
and the equation will tell you the corresponding y.
Okay.
So what are they asking us to do here?
The question's asking for us to find the slope on the line tangent to the curve at the point 1/4.
And make sure you say x equal 1/4, yeah. So how do we do that?
I don't know.
So look at your golden notes again. Read this box, and if you still don't know the answer, it's okay. But read that box and see if that tells you the answer. If it doesn't, it's fine. We just gotta see if it'll tell you.
It says it's like the slope of the line tangent on the x. Yeah, I don't know.
So let's just review again. What's the purpose of this equation?
That's to find any x or y point on the curve.
Good. What's the purpose of this equation?
That's to find any x or y on the line tangent.
Perfect. What's the purpose of this equation?
that could find the slope of the line tangent to f of x, slope of f of x at a point.
At any x. At any x on f itself. So here's f. Assuming this is where x equals 1/4 right here, I can use this formula to find this slope right here on f. And that is the slope of a line that is tangent to f. The slope of a line that is tangent to f at x equal 1/4. So I need to use this.
Okay. Yeah.
Get that? So now I simply use the formula, so I don't press that button. So we get f prime of 1/4 So what's this going to be?
It'll be 4 sec. Oh, that'll be 4 over sec.
For what?
It'll be 4 and then square to 60%.
Well, be careful. The squared is outside.
So, oh, sorry, 1. So it'd be 4 over 2, which is 2.
Let's slow down. The squared is outside.
So 4 times 1/4 is 1.
There we go.
And then squared is 1.
There we go. You were just having, you said it right. I just
Oh,
used
yeah.
it. So the final result is?
4 over 2, which is 2.
Very good. Okay, so again, force yourself, like do whatever it takes to say, I'm not learning this problem.
Yeah.
I am learning what is the meaning of this formula, what is the purpose of this formula, both purposes, and what are the two purposes of this formula. That's what you have to focus on. So, good work.
Thanks. So really, you don't